Be quiet now. Shh.
Welcome back, everybody. So I apologize. We had some technical difficulties. And before we even get any further, I want to hear your voice, Ellie.
You want to hear my voice?
There.
Here it is.
So this lets me know that we're good now, because we had technical difficulties. I couldn't hear a word you were saying, and we had to come off the broadcast. So I apologize, and I hope for sure that we've got some people who've come back on who really want to hear all the things we want to talk about tonight, and I'm really excited. And if anybody missed the intro before, I talked about the idea of the Healthy Entrepreneur Show. It is brought to you by Business Takeout, and Business Takeout is a social enterprise and advocacy platform, that provides business resources and education to the Black community. So if you want to learn more about Business Takeout, please follow their page, join their Facebook group, go to their website, and follow them on all social media platforms, because they have this and many other podcasts that would be able to help anyone who is on the journey to entrepreneurism and needs some motivation. I am your host, Maxine Choy. I'm a health and nutrition coach, and I work with women to help them maintain their goals, their health goals, and just to help them become a better version of themselves. So without further ado, welcome LA to the show.
Hey, how you doing?
I'm great. How are you?
I was just really sharing on IG Live how I just feel like, so Dr. Vibe always says that he's blessed, highly favored, a magnet for miracles, and a solution to someone's problem. And
Yes.
I just think that is the most remarkable mantra that you can use to lead with. And it legit just changes the whole room when you announce yourself this way. Like, who are you? How are you? I'm
Yes.
a magnet for miracles. I'm blessed and highly favored. It just,
absolutely.
we're talking about being a healthy mindset to be an entrepreneur. It starts with the things that you say as a mantra and an ongoing motto to how you want to live and work.
Wow. I love that. Wow. Okay. So now you're just like throwing me right off now, because I have some questions to ask you, and tell us a little bit about yourself first, and tell us why LA CockTales. Or CockTales with LA.
CockTales with LA. And it's funny because most people know me as just CockTales with LA.
Yes.
And that's fine, because that's what I am. That's what I do. But behind CockTales with LA and the LA part of CockTales with LA is me. And that is, you can find me on IG at This Is LA Wade. And you'll see that I am, I'm a photographer. I love doing creative photography, and thanks to Potential Films, Sheldon Shaw, Will and Sean, his little son, who does Oofy, like that's a family to me, right? We're building a thing. And then I incorporated a business just last year with Mike Truth, who also hosts the Dark Room session. So these are just, I've gotten into a more creative vibe with my entrepreneurial efforts. Originally, I work with the University of Toronto as a registrar and sessional lecturer, and I've worked there for 12 years. And, education is fun, but the way that I also used to teach my classes there, I would always utilize popular culture in order to make a larger point. Right. Because that's what was impactful to people. We watch television, we're always on our phones with social media. Everything is very hyper visual. And so I thought that I have something that I want people to think about. It's not necessarily about changing people's mindset. It's about being critical with your thinking. Because if we're not thinking about it, then we can't change the narrative that we are playing out in our lives. And so many people that are melanated that look like us are playing out a story that is kind of detrimental to their success. And they see themselves within a colonized society, to be quite frank, right?
Yes, exactly.
So, right. So there's like, I always talk about the mythology of things. And for instance, us here in North America in the diaspora, we have a mythology of being ex-slaves. We come from enslaved people. However, when you think about Jamaica, it's like, do you feel sorry for these so quote unquote ex-slaves? No, you don't. You feel like, wow, these are proud people. These are people that believe in their talents, that go for what they want. And the people that come from that country kind of wear that as a badge of honor.
Absolutely.
So then that mythology has changed the landscape of how people interact with Jamaicans. And so I believe that we need to change the mythology here in the diaspora, specifically North America, Canada, and the US, and maybe in the UK, about what is our mythology. I really believe that hip hop tried to infuse something different into the way we saw ourselves as melanated people. And that was just used and brought back into the capitalistic system. So then it continues the whole cycle of just replicating the very thing that we were trying to escape from. So we've just become, enslaved in a different way.
Right.
And we're blind to it. We'll defend it to the fullest because we're so used to the story that we're telling ourselves.
Absolutely. It's like we continue to play the victim role. And it's so justifiable for us to live our lives feeling that we're always victimized and we'll never have opportunities. And we always get the short end of the stick. And I love the fact that you had said to me that you use your voice to get what you want. And
absolutely. You have to use your voice. Use your words. You got to
use your words to get what you want, right? And
yes.
I mean, I've seen you. I've known you for a couple of years now. You're a speaker at one of my events, and you told a story. And I think from that, because you decided to use your voice to bring out these inner feelings that you were dealing with, bring out the trauma and anything that you had to deal with as a child, you were silenced, right?
Absolutely.
So you've used your voice, you've come out, and from that you received amazing support. And it has, and I'm noticing, or I have noticed, that it has taken you on different levels, which is why you wear so many hats right now. And I think that's amazing that one thing that you needed, which is your voice, and the fact that you love yourself.
Yes. And that was a process.
Yes.
That didn't just come.
No.
I most definitely did not love myself.
Oh.
Most women go through that, right?
Yes, most women will go through that. They don't love themselves.
Most people.
And
it's not about women. People will go through a rite of passage.
But you know what, though? It doesn't, the term, oh, you don't love yourself, and some people might be saying, oh, what are you talking about? I love myself. That's fine. Because how you love yourself.
Right. We're not really taught that. We're taught that loving ourselves is outside of ourselves.
Right.
Or when we're children, Yes. We put so much, God loved just being mothers and all of that kind of stuff, but we are there to support this child and to raise that child and bring and set and be the example of God in that child's life so that the child can recognize what direction they need to take.
Yes, exactly.
So they belong to us, but they don't belong to us.
Right.
We don't even really belong to us. We belong to something else that put us here.
Exactly.
And so my role with my children is to help them find their purpose, not to make them be a replication of what society tells them they should be.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So what was it? What was that moment that made you decide that I'm going to go on this journey of using my voice and just getting all these things out, and even just what you're talking about are just the way that we are as a Black person, and playing the victim. What was it?
No, for sure. I would almost be as bold as to say that it was purposed. That it was a destiny. I recently found some old VHS tapes. VHS. You know what I'm saying? You got to get that.
Yes, I do. Mm-hmm.
Right. So I did. I got it transferred onto a digital platform, and I got to see what was there all this time. And back in 2002, there was a pastor by the name of Bloomer. He's out of New York. And he was visiting a church called Rhema here that I would go to every now and then. And I go into this church, and it's like packed with like probably 500 people or something. And he comes up to me amongst all these people and tells me that when he turned around, he saw a complete destiny. This is what the man said, and I have it on tape, so I'm not even making this stuff up. That was 2002.
Exactly.
I had just had my son, and I had just gotten separated from my first husband. So he says, I turned around and I saw a complete destiny. He brought me up on stage, And on the stage, he had me raise my hands. And he told me that I was going down the road real cool. And then I heard a voice that turned me away from what God had purposed for me. But he was there to tell me, he said, that God didn't take it away from me. I turned away from it because I wanted to follow my heart. And that really resonated for me, being a sex/love addict, because I have been traveling around my whole life looking to fill the thirst traps of my life. And essentially these thirst traps are wanting to belong, you know, wanting to feel loved, wanting the acceptance of my mother, wanting this, wanting that girlfriend, wanting all of these different things that already existed inside of me, but I just didn't remember or didn't know, because something happened when I was younger that blotted it out. And I was, you know, silenced in a sense, like you were, to your point, what you were saying. And from going through the process of trying to get back to what I understood about myself, I essentially went on a rite of passage. And rites of passage is this old concept that a theorist by the name of Arnold van Gennep, he coined it, rites of passage. And he says that there are 3 stages, and that those stages are separation, liminality, and incorporation. And then further to that, John Turner, another theorist, expounded upon that theory to say that they're not just discrete things that happen. You don't just separate, then you have liminality, then you have incorporation.
Right.
These things kind of bleed into each other.
Okay.
So I would say that I was kind of separated. I had a circumcision of sorts from God when I first got abused. And that circumcision started a separation from me, from my Father in heaven, for a long period of time. Right. And as I started to get older, that was when the true separation started. And I entered in that phase of liminality, where this is where everything is disoriented. You don't know where you belong. You are trying anything. This is where you try yoga. This is where the men buy that Ferrari or the Lambo that they've always wanted, the midlife crisis, but it can happen in so many different parts of your life.
Right.
You're searching for that thing that is your purpose, to fill that gap, that void inside of you that you know is gnawing on you, that you should really be doing something, but you can't really figure it out. So you go through, that's liminality. And then finally you get somewhere, and all of a sudden things start to fall into place, and you know something then that you didn't know before, and that you clearly can, and the contrast of where you end up and where you started is what helps you recognize it.
You're right. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Wow. I mean, that's pretty powerful, because when you say rite of passage, I relate it to, like, say, for instance, children. Right. Because, you know, as children, we all go through phases in our lives, and it's inevitable. Like, it's a phase that we go through our life. So children must receive love, and they must have the care, and they must go to school, and they must do something terrible and do something amazing. So different. So that's how I equate rite of passage, but I've never broken it down that way. And now you're going to make me look it up.
Separation, liminality, incorporation.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah. You know, so I was on your IG, and it looks like you're doing some kind of maybe 365-day challenge of some sort. And is that about discovering yourself, or what is that about?
It's actually something that I brought back into my eyes, because I used to, so when I was married, I used to be online as a Muse 365. And when I was doing a Muse 365, it was right after I had moved in with my husband into a new home. And I just felt kind of, after you have a child, you feel kind of disconnected. You don't feel as, you know?
Yes.
So I thought, well, let me go and find one thing a day that I'm grateful for, that I learned from, the wisdom that I got from the day, something that I thought about that struck me as interesting.
Right.
Something that I saw. And I thought, you know, when I did it, when I was a Muse 365, it was more of my fitness journey and what I was grateful for.
Right.
And so that was that was a big deal for me in keeping me consistent with something, because sometimes we can become complacent with our posting. Let's be honest. We're just like, oh, am I going to post today? And
put it
together, put it out there.
For sure.
But this gives you more purpose. And so a big part of what I do as a business is I seek to destigmatize, I seek to empower, to educate, to assist in healing, and to make people laugh. Because I think the laughter in healing is highly overlooked and underutilized. There's so much healing power in laughter. And when you come from such pain, I feel like our community, to my point about how we tell our narrative, our mythology of things, we attach how you tell a story and the emotional attachment you use with that story really sets you up for what you're going to manifest from telling that story.
Absolutely, 100%. That is so true. And I don't want to. But before I even continue, if we have anyone watching, I think you have your IG folks watching as well live.
Yes.
And if there's anyone watching the show on Facebook, we're asking if you can please like and share, comment, even ask any questions. LA is quite open to answering any questions that you may have. And
you know why?
Why? Tell me.
People always want to, like, people kind of want to be like, how does she do that? Why does she tell everybody everything? And I've coined it now. I've coined it the 8 Mile effect. So if you watch that movie, you know that Eminem, first time he was going to talk, he went and vomited up himself in the bathroom. But then the next time he did it, he you only get one shot. And what he did was he exposed everything about his life. So that the other person who was going to battle rap him, usually in battle rap, they can pick on things about your life to embarrass you or to punk you off, right?
Yes.
So what he did was he embarrassed himself. He punked himself off. So then it left his opponent like, what do I do now?
What do you do now? Yeah.
He's already said it all. And that's what I'm doing. What's a guy going to do now? I used to sleep with her. Oh, well, she kind of said that already.
I see. Okay. Noted.
That's a stupid, simple example, but really, I live in an exposed way because I want liberation. And when I am transparent and completely authentic and genuine in how I show up in the world, that's liberating, man. Straight up. That is so liberating. So I'm not hiding anything. Ask me whatever you want.
Right.
Because in owning my journey, because it's journey. If I make mistakes, it's still journey. People can point their fingers all they want, but it's still the journey that I'm on. And your opinion of me doesn't change the journey that I'm on. And I used to want that validation so much from external sources. And it was my journey within that helped me realize that I have everything that I need at my fingertips. And with that, I'm liberated. I'm liberated fully from that.
I love that. And I wasn't going to bring this up, but when you were a speaker at my Bellas and Fellas brunch and social, your story liberated. Like I felt liberated even just listening to your story.
Amazing. Point of story sharing.
Yeah, and the feedback I received from your story and from many women was amazing. And I thought, you are so courageous to stand there so confidently and talk about your story. And I think if anyone, I think it resonated with a lot of women, of course, right?
Yes.
So I love the fact that you've continued to use your voice and you've expressed yourself. You're very open about what you do, even with your relationship with cannabis, which we won't get into right now because that's a whole other show.
Oh, sorry, but don't you worry. I have my little joint right here. It's all good.
It's all good. So I just want to ask you some questions. So you did a post the other day and I saw it and it says so it was one of your, I think your day 48, I don't remember which one it was, but so just because this show is geared towards entrepreneurism and being able to have both of us, myself and my guests, be able to share some of our journeys as an entrepreneur, or even if you're part-time, full-time, as to what our struggles are, how we go through our days, keeping up, and basically just how we manage to put our health at the forefront, whether it's your physical, mental, or spiritual, right? So I'm going to quickly go over what the post says, and then we can just pick on any topic that...
It's my post.
It's your post. Yes.
Okay.
Okay. So
Okay.
your post says, ask yourself if you're ready or simply restless. And it says, be micro ambitious. Take a break instead of a step. Oh. Ask yourself questions to figure out what you want. Listen to your frustration. The next one is get outside of your own head, which we should always do, right?
Yes.
And accept that it's always a waiting period. Love that too. And when the door closes, another one opens, which is like, that's, yeah.
Yeah. Yes, quite literally.
Right. But the one I really want to talk about right now, is I'm choosing, I know we said we can talk about whatever,
Your show, girl. Do your thing.
is listen to your frustrations.
Mm-hmm.
So how have you
How have I
done that? And tell me about it.
I've gotten better at it because the frustrations you're feeling anyway. You're feeling the frustrations. So if you pay attention to them, they're there to tell you something. So the idea is to not turn away from your frustrations, but to lean into them to figure out what's a way to reconstruct the story that is creating the frustration. Right? This is how I maneuver.
So reconstruct the story to figure out your frustration.
Yeah. So for instance, you'll hear coaches constantly telling you to, you'll get an exercise where they say, write all of the good things that are happening, and then or write all the bad things that are happening, then write its opposite on the other side.
Yes.
And so that's an exercise that people do, and that's good because it brings awareness. So recognize your frustrations. However, when you change the narrative around the frustrations, hence the other side that is the good list, you take that good list and you start to construct the story, reconstruct the story.
Absolutely. Love that.
Right? So for example, I'm an older woman, I'm 47. I have worked in a comfortable position for a long time, but I've had a hard life. I have a learning disability. I have anxiety and severe depression that I battle all the time. But these are just things that I can label about myself. It's not something that I attach to in terms of my identity, because for me, my identity is in Christ. And so, and maybe that's convenient, but it still helps me. Like for those that are not believers or whatnot, there's something that you are believing or choosing not to believe in that still holds you down. So that's like, I have no drama about that. However, for me, for years, since I was 5 and being molested and not knowing, who I was and nobody to teach me about who I was, I very early had a connection with God that was just always there. It wasn't a mature relationship because I was a child, but I was aware. And I think that, I don't know where it says it in the Bible, but it talks about when you don't even know what to say in prayer, that you can just be literally murmuring. And God will still hear your heart and understand.
Yes, absolutely.
And so when you've been through so much trauma and pain like I have, and those moments where I'm not where I am now, but in those moments where, you're just gutturally crying through what is happening to you. And you don't know what's going to happen. And I did an IG live actually with Pastor Daniel Winter. So shout out to Pastor Daniel Winter, who labeled me actually the woman at the well. That's a whole other story. But he also said to me, I asked him one time, and it's in one of my posts actually, what do I do? How do I know what to do? And he said, just keep taking one step at a time, hence the other part of the post, because that's all we can do. If I care about where I want to be and how I need to act as if I'm there, sure, I can take one step at a time to do that. However, I don't know, this is where I am now. Yep. And so, and COVID's happening and life happens. So you have to still take steps true to who you are, where you are. So here's a pastor seeing that I'm saying I'm a sex addict. I talk about cannabis and sex and all of these different things. And he's encouraging me to keep moving, because when God wants to convict me to do something different, he will. And because of how my process is, I will listen. And and what I do to support myself is so I build it into the narrative of what I'm doing so that I can be supported. I
Exactly.
can be supported in my journey. I can't, everyone who watches or engages with me, all of these wonderful people that have gone in and out of the live, they all support me in my healing
Absolutely.
because it's true in society as well. But we're just not paying attention to the resources all around us. And on another post I have, I reference Michael Ungar, who was a social worker who talked about resilience being from the perspective of community. And so resilience is not just about grit and pushing through on your own. That's the lie that people want you to believe, so that when you're not doing it right, you feel ashamed.
Right.
Or guilty about things. And those things will just hinder you from actually pushing through because you don't feel empowered when you're in your shame.
Okay.
So right. So you have to go through it. And how you go through it when you don't know how to go through it is you ask a friend. If I don't know how do I put this thing on Instagram? Hey, Maxine, you know how to put this on Instagram? Either you say yes, or I think my girlfriend over here said it before and she knows how to do it. So you just utilize your tribe or your village to raise whatever it is that you're trying to raise up. It takes a village, right? And the child could just be a metaphor for ideas, for all kinds of things. And I just have to always plug when I do a live with somebody, we need to get it together with the group economic situation. Like our community, this is a race. That's the human race. And and I say they because they're the ones that created the power and the inclusion and the homogeneous way of thinking that this is how we're supposed to live in the world. So they got a head start in the race. And here we come up behind them. We need to work together. But of course, they're so busy separating us that we can't do that.
We can't do that.
But we can if we start to tell that story differently. And so I always make a point of giving people the option, because sometimes it's just about hearing something that you never thought of before.
Absolutely. You know, I love how you tell a story, and you got me, because I'm thinking, oh my goodness, I'm going to have to ask you some more questions about your beliefs. It's amazing. We have some comments on here.
Amazing.
Can you read them? Because I can't see them. I'm using my phone.
Oh,
that issue.
It definitely takes a village is one of the things.
Just English said? Okay. And another one.
Business. The more you speak it, the more you reduce its power over you. Absolutely.
Yes,
and,
exactly.
And always change, like how I tell the story. If I was to tell that same story that I said that November day in 2019 about my abuse, I might say it differently, especially if I'm speaking from where I am now.
Right.
But at that time, that's where I was, and that's how it came out.
You know, let's go back to that November day, 2019, and also to the fact that you've mentioned this a couple of times, that you were, or maybe still is,
a sex addict. Because when you're an addict, you don't change from being an addict. So you're always an addict. An alcoholic is always an alcoholic. They just may never drink again, but they're always an alcoholic, because if they do, they can go back to where they were. Okay. All right. But let's just say that I'm on the wagon. I am not in sex addict mode at the moment. and that's what I mean by the community and people holding me accountable. Corona has also assisted in me not being a sex addict. Let's just say that.
But you had defined the sex addiction before, because I think that when people hear a woman say she's a sex addict, or men or women, they would think, oh, this woman likes to.
Oh, yes. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So they think that. Pardon me?
That is what they think.
Yes. Yeah. And it's perceived as somebody who just wants to have sex all the time and with anyone, anywhere, or whatever.
Right. And there are those type of sex addicts.
Exactly. So can you describe yours, please?
So the simplest way I can say it is that I would use sex to barter for love. And where it became an addiction is where it started to impact my finances and impact my work, sort of. My marriage for sure dissolved. And I noticed that it was when you get pressure points or trauma points in my life that I was remembering, and I didn't have a community around me the way that I do now to support me. I was in that liminality phase, and I felt disoriented and lost. And so those are the thirst traps. You're in the desert at that point, and you go searching for the thing that's going to hold you down. It's funny because a lot of my girlfriends walked away from me during those moments of, oh yeah, a lot of my girlfriends walked away from me because I mean, I didn't necessarily act as a girlfriend either. I don't know. I didn't know. I was brought up in a way that my mom was never home. I raised myself essentially off of the Cosby Show and watching TV and movies. And that's why I love it so much, because that's essentially what kept me company. That was my moral compass. So, but because I was aware of it being a mediated form that I was watching, I began deconstructing things from very young because I could see the contrast. Contrast is the most wonderful teacher. Contrast and experience, right? Mm-hmm. Those are the two things that I want people to be able to do when they're trying to learn.
Contrast and experience.
Yes.
Definitely.
Yeah. Yeah, because I know that I'm better now because of who I used to be. Exactly. Right. And
that's from your experience as well, right?
Right. And so when I can draw upon that contrast, that's what's being articulated when I speak about things. And that's why it's so defined when I speak about it, because I'm aware of that contrast. I'm right there in it. Yeah.
So we had I love that. We had a comment from James. I saw something come up.
James, do you think someone can get over a bad childhood, or do they have to learn to live with it? I mean, we can't go back. Question. It's a great question. Thanks, James. You can't change what happened back then. And you want to live in the now. You know, that whole cliche, you want to live in the now.
Yes.
If my bad childhood comes up as triggers or traumas, the more present I am and the more I'm practicing my spirituality, the more I'm able to deal with it in a way that doesn't have that same control over me. And I've made that a part of my mythology, that I confront things. You'll hear me say it all the time.
Right.
Yeah, I want to be liberated. I want to live transparently. I want to be authentic. I want to be genuine. And I say it with passion. So therefore I do it.
Liberated, transparent, and genuine. Authentic, genuine. I mean, those are the things that set you free.
Yes.
Right? It sets you free. And it's also an act of love, because we talked about that, loving yourself. And it's important that we get to the level of understanding what we mean by loving ourselves.
Yeah.
And maybe it just means coming out of a shell or these beliefs that we've had about ourselves that dictates how we show up in the world and how we even give love or want love from somebody else. Right?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
There were some people that I thought love was present. And then as I grew, I was like, that wasn't love at all.
Yeah.
Did that person actually even like me?
Or were you just there for convenience?
Right. Well, people, I mean, unfortunately, we utilize one another a lot.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah, we're very utilitarian with the way that we approach our relationships, which is a survival tactic. And that's where we are. Right. So, yeah. So again, see how I won't label it in a certain way so that I will no longer be able to attach to something negative about myself or the people that look like me, because when I go from the perspective of impact or from the perspective of the other, then it allows me to do that list of this is what's good about that person, or this is what's challenging about that person. How can I treat them in a way that will promote more of what I would like to see be in them? It's the Stephen Covey circle of influence versus the circle of control. Right? So the more you focus on the influence, the more it overtakes the control, the part that you don't have control over. So there's certain things that I don't have control over. But
Absolutely.
There's always things that I have influence over. And that influence is what's going to allow me to change the narrative.
Girl, you just dropped some bombs right there.
Give thanks.
I love it.
Yeah, it's self-awareness. Oh, the way that I speak is really about self-awareness and just being honest.
And that's the thing too. I think that even when the fact that when you come on and you do your lives and you've got your cannabis and you're talking about how it makes you feel and you talk about your sexual addiction and you talk about your past, I think that's she brings it up again. Yeah, I mean, that's pretty powerful, because a lot of times when we are in the public eye, especially if you're an entrepreneur or you're just a business owner or somebody, you're in the public eye.
Right.
And there may be some things beneath the surface that is troubling us, or it's making us hide behind that. It's keeping us from exposing ourselves or being vulnerable.
It's shame. It's shame.
Right. Yeah. And believe it or not, and I'm bringing up this point because the Healthy Entrepreneur Show, and thank you to the producers who thought of this.
Yeah.
The mandate is really just to create an environment for anybody who is trying to be successful or trying to work on a business, build a legacy for their family, and just be encouraged.
Right.
Is to share the stories of other people like other people like yourself and myself, how we go about it, how we went through it. And I think this will probably hit somebody or resonate with somebody who may have an addiction.
Yeah.
And that alone could be what's silencing them and not wanting to spread their wings even further. Because if you didn't say anything about what you were doing, maybe it wouldn't take you this far. It wouldn't have led you down to the road that you're at.
Yeah. Yes. And there's something really important about what you're saying in terms of, if I didn't say it, like people do trial and error with things to know if they're going to keep doing it or not. And so when you're open and honest, most times you don't get the feedback that you kind of want to get. You get the opposite of what you want to get.
Right.
The feedback. Right. So
exactly.
then that doesn't allow you to follow through and do it again.
Exactly.
Because you're like, oh, I tried. It was messed up. So therefore.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, can we just talk about the Israelites that left Egypt and went through the desert, like 40 years when it should have only taken 40 days? And that's how we stay. No,
exactly.
This is our problem.
It is our problem. Exactly.
And that's what in reference to the quote, the post that you're referencing, doing those little things and staying present in what you're doing, going through. You have to go through. And I will not tell anyone that going through is easy. It is not easy.
No.
And where you think, because I like to work out, right? So people that have that kind of workout mentality get what I'm talking about.
Exactly.
There's shit that you got to push through when you don't feel like it.
Exactly.
And so as much as I physically work out, I spiritually work out. And I'm in beast mode right now. I am in spiritual beast mode. So for me, no weapon formed against me can prosper.
Shall prosper. Exactly.
It cannot, because where I'm weak, he makes me perfect. So I can't tell you, I don't care who doesn't believe in God or whatever they want. This is, if anything else, it is a meditation that is going to serve you well.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yes.
I love this. We're way past the time, so I don't want to go over, but I have two more questions to ask you. And,
sure. And I just want to big up all the people on IG Live and Facebook and YouTube. Follow me, CockTales with LA. I really feel like this is a very poignant moment because I've done my due diligence. I can tell that I'm about to go to another level because
me too.
The shit comes for you, right? The shit comes for you when you are going up.
When you're going up. Oh, so it comes for you. I get it.
I take it as a blessing. Come, bring it if you have to. Nah, because I'm liberated, you can't mess with it.
No. Okay, so what do you fear?
What do I fear? Well, God says to fear not. But I wrote about fear yesterday, I think it was.
Oh, you did? Okay.
Yeah, I think I wrote about fear yesterday. And I said fear, because fear manifests differently. So not all fear is the same. So some fear is kind of good for you, right? Mm-hmm. So because you need to know when you shouldn't be around something. So some fear is good. So I talked yesterday about doubt. Fear manifested as doubt can make you forget who you are. So when you're feeling dehydrated from the experiences that you're having, I fear that I'm not able to retell the story in a way that will help me out of that situation. I think that is my biggest fear. But because it hasn't proven to be something to be true as of right now, because I'm the woman at the well.
Yes. So
therefore, this is a well that Jesus said to the Samaritan woman that if you drink from me or from this well, you'll never thirst again. Mm-hmm. And And I believe wholeheartedly that that's what's happening. And Islam talks about the Zamzam. They thought it was a mirage, but there was this well, this water supply in the middle of the desert. So in the middle of the desert, you can still find a well, and it's in you.
Exactly.
Yes.
No,
People think that I talk about God externally. I'm talking about the God inside of me.
Absolutely.
Right?
So
and
just
you
English.
Have that relationship.
You have to have the relationship with God. You have to be grounded. You have to believe in a higher power. It's the only way that we get to just exist, really.
Yes. Do you want to know what someone just said on my IG live? They brought up when I was talking about praying with murmuring and not really speaking.
Mm-hmm.
He went and found the post. It's Exodus 6:12. Yeah, and Philippians 2:14, murmuring. Not sure if one of these verses was the one you were thinking of. I believe it is.
Right.
Because, yes. So you know what? Even if you don't have the words, the voice is not just vocal. It's the voice is not just words.
Right.
It's a lot of things. It's humming. It's it's humming. It's like sitting with it.
It's just It's chanting, whatever it is.
Chanting.
Exactly.
Audible. Something that comes audible from you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So we're gonna wrap up, but I wanted to just say, if what you're working on a project, which you're in a secret location, and you are.
Oh, I just told that one.
Pardon?
I think I just told everybody that one.
Okay. All right. So if anybody wants to reach you and see what you're doing, where can they reach you?
Okay, so you can mostly just find me on Instagram. I love Facebook, not really. You know what I mean? Because my platform is there's so much family stuff on Facebook for me, and my family has a love-hate relationship with me, I'm pretty sure. And I don't think when I say hate, I just mean like they really don't understand. They just don't understand what's going down.
Okay, no problem.
Which also speaks to the fact that people don't understand the impact that they have on other people's lives. When people, those people that we had from high school that you're like, you called me this, and the person's gone on with their life. They have no idea that they've called you anything, and you've held it on for all those years, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so when there's actually real shit going on and people are pointing that towards you, the impact of that, we need to be mindful of the other.
Absolutely.
Be mindful of the other. Be considerate of the other. And when people interact with you in a way that disrupts your alignment, I met a dread that just told me journey. He said, that's just journey. Yeah. So it's also culture. He said journey and he said culture. And these become two words that I use to kind of like a tapping to remind me that what I'm experiencing is just part of the journey, or what I'm experiencing is something culturally different. So instead of being like afraid of it being different, just being like, oh, be more curious about it.
Exactly.
Why is that person acting like that? I wonder what's wrong. Opposed to that person's Aida. Like we're so cutthroat with people. We'll just cut people out. There's nothing wrong with backing away, but don't leave them so. We've been abandoned. We've been hurt. Don't further exacerbate that.
Oh, that's pretty powerful.
Yeah, man.
No, you're so right. You're absolutely right. And I just wanted to read a comment. Yeah, be mindful, but we can't just cut people out like that, because you don't know their journey. You don't know, what they need from you, or even just you never know. Just English made a comment before we wrap up. She had a question, I think, before that. If the producers can just bring that forward. What is it saying?
She says, you have to have a relationship with God. He's a jealous God. You're damn right he's jealous.
Exactly.
God is in us, right? And we feel jealous.
Absolutely.
And we feel jealous.
Yes. So the takeaway really is for people to exercise authenticity and tell their story. Right?
Tell their story.
Yeah.
And be considerate of the other.
Mm-hmm. I love that. So LA, I thank you so much for coming on, and I thank the audience for watching, and all the people who have inquired and participated, and thank your audience on IG who's
Yes,
watching
big
as
up
well.
yourselves, IG Live.
Exactly.
IG,
Yes.
big up
IG Live.
yourself.
Exactly. So we want to thank you guys again, and please like and share this podcast if you enjoyed it, or you feel that somebody would benefit from the information that LA has shared with us. She's a wonderful human being. Please follow her.
Thanks.
And as usual, we want to thank you and have a good night, everyone. We'll see you next Tuesday, same time. Bye-bye. Thanks, LA.
Maxine, thanks for having me.
Anytime.
All right.